especially too for a part of that game, getting us that lead back. And so just making sure that we're just getting downhill, getting open sprays, and just attacking.
The phone in Caitlin Clark's trembling hands felt heavier than any basketball she had ever held, as if the entire weight of her career and identity was pressing through the screen. Staring at the MRI results, the words "season-ending groin injury" blurred into her tears. And for the first time since she was 5 years old, the game that had been her purpose now felt like a distant memory fading into silence. 9 months, that was the doctor's verdict. A stretch of time that suddenly seemed endless, unbearable, and cruelly unfair. In that quiet Indianapolis apartment, surrounded by trophies that no longer felt like symbols of victory, but ghosts of what she was losing, Caitlin's world fractured in slow motion. The smell of muscle cream and the faint hum of distant traffic only magnified the emptiness. Her jerseys hung like abandoned dreams, their bright colors dulled in the shadow of what felt like failure. For someone who had spent her entire life being strong, composed, and unbreakable in the public eye, the sudden collapse of that strength left her naked before her own pain. She had inspired millions, but in that moment, she couldn't even inspire herself to believe there was a future beyond the injury. It is often in those unbearable hours, when the world sleeps and the heart screams, that something extraordinary begins to stir. Caitlin sat on her couch at 2:15 a.m., her phone silent beside her, as she typed and deleted messages she would never send. Then, at 2:17, desperation finally won over pride. She typed 3 words to the one contact she'd saved months ago but never dared to use: Stephen Curry. "I'm done. Season over." Her thumb hovered, then pressed send. The message disappeared into the dark, and almost immediately, regret crashed over her. What was she thinking, disturbing one of the greatest players alive in the middle of the night? But before the guilt could fully consume her, her phone buzzed. "Who is this?" The reply was short but not cold. Something in its simplicity felt human, kind. Caitlin hesitated, her hands shaking as she typed back, "Caitlin, sorry, shouldn't have texted. Just needed someone to know." There was power in those words, in the quiet confession that she was no longer okay. Vulnerability, that foreign language she had never learned to speak, suddenly became her only truth. What happened next would alter her understanding of strength forever. The response came, "Give me your address. I'm coming over." She blinked in disbelief. Surely he was joking. "It's 2 a.m., she replied. "You don't even know me. I'm nobody." But Steven's next message came like a bomb to a wounded soul. "You're not nobody. You're someone who just had the courage to reach out when you needed help. That makes you braver than most." 27 minutes later, a knock echoed through her apartment. Caitlin limped to the door, her body sore and her mind fogged with exhaustion. And there he was, Stephen Curry, dressed simply in a hoodie and jeans, holding 2 cups of coffee as if this were the most ordinary thing in the world. "I can't believe you actually came," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I came because 15 years ago, I was exactly where you are," he said, stepping into the soft glow of her living room. He set the coffee down amid the scattered medical papers and broken dreams, his eyes gentle but knowing. "I lay in a hospital bed after my 3rd ankle surgery, wondering if I'd ever play again. I felt like I'd failed everyone who believed in me, but someone showed up for me when I thought I didn't deserve it. So now, I show up for others." His honesty pierced the fog around her. It wasn't pity. It was empathy born from pain, a bridge built from shared wounds. Caitlin's defenses cracked, and for the first time that night, she breathed without sobbing. "How did you get through it?" she asked quietly. Stephen reached into a worn leather bag and pulled out a basketball, faded, scratched, and scarred. "This was the ball I used in my first game back after the worst injury of my life," he said. "It's ugly, it's battered, but it's mine. Every champion has a comeback story, and this," he placed it gently into her hands, "is the beginning of yours." The weight of the ball grounded her. It wasn't just leather and seams. It was a testament to endurance. She could feel the ghosts of his pain and perseverance embedded in its surface. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, tears spilling freely now. Why care about someone like me? Steven smiled, soft but firm. Because someone cared about me when I didn't believe I was worth it. Because this game isn't about fame or stats or trophies. It's about people. About passing on strength when someone else's light flickers. His words settled into her bones. They stayed up talking until dawn. About fear, failure, faith, and the strange grace of starting over. He told her about the nights he'd cried into the dark. About how every comeback is built not on strength but on surrender. The moment you stop fighting your pain and start learning from it. When he left, the sky was streaked with pink. And for the first time since her diagnosis, Caitlin felt a flicker of hope. In the weeks that followed, she began rehab with a different mindset. Every stretch, every painful step became a prayer of gratitude. She taped Steven's words, "Every champion has a comeback story," to her mirror and whispered them before every session. Slowly, the anger transformed into purpose. She began visiting children's hospitals, speaking to young athletes facing injuries, telling them about that night when she nearly gave up and the message that changed everything. Her story spread quietly, not through press conferences or viral clips, but through whispered
Starting, I think the physicality level was a little bit different on both sides of the ball. But for us, really, I think
The hours that followed Caitlin Clark's desperate 2:17 a.m. message would become the quiet turning point in a story that transcended sport, fame, or even personal triumph. It became about the enduring strength of human connection. When Stephen Curry stood in her doorway that night, carrying 2 coffees and the kind of empathy that could only come from experience, neither of them could have known how that encounter would ripple outward. For Caitlin, the pain of losing her season had felt like the death of everything she'd ever built. Her entire identity had been wrapped around the rhythm of the game, the sound of the crowd, the pulse of competition. But in that dimly lit apartment, something unexpected took root. A new understanding that greatness isn't defined by the moments we shine under bright lights, but by how we rise when the lights go out. Steven didn't offer hollow encouragement or fame-soaked advice. He stayed. He listened. He spoke with honesty about the nights he, too, had doubted himself. After his 3rd ankle surgery, when the world questioned his longevity and critics said he was too fragile to lead a dynasty, he shared how pain had stripped away everything except what truly mattered: love for the game and faith in himself. His vulnerability didn't make him smaller in Caitlin's eyes. It made him infinitely more human. As dawn crept across the sky, washing her living room in soft gold, Caitlin felt peace. Not the shallow calm of denial, but the profound relief that comes from realizing you're not alone. When she asked how she could ever repay him, Steven smiled gently and said the words that would become the heartbeat of her recovery. "You don't repay it, you pass it on. One day, there'll be another young player sitting where you're sitting now, thinking their world is over. When that happens, you'll know exactly what to do." Those words settled deep in her bones, and over. The months that followed, they became her anchor. Rehabilitation was brutal. There were mornings she could barely move and nights when pain screamed louder than hope. Every time doubt crept in, she looked at the scuffed basketball Steven had given her, the same one he'd used in his own comeback game. It wasn't a pristine symbol of victory, but a relic of resilience, marked by scars that told their own story. Caitlin began documenting her recovery online, not to gain sympathy,